a way that doesn't let you kind of control your mic and your camera, we're trying to keep an eye out for that. So we'll give it another couple of minutes here, and then I believe Commissioner Cox will be joining us to kick us off.
Luke, it looks like Commissioner Cox has joined. I think we can begin. So hello, everyone. This is Kevin Bargness with the communication staff of the Department of Planning and Development. Luke Mitch is going to be leading this meeting. I just wanted to let you all know that we are recording and live streaming this on YouTube. Luke, I think you can begin.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Again, good afternoon, everyone. I'll go ahead and put on the screen here our slide deck. So here we are, January 25th, the Englewood Invest Southwest RFP community presentations. This, of course, is part one. We have a second installment of this coming up on Thursday. More to come on that. But before we really launch into the agenda, apologies, let's see if this advances. Well, I'll just real briefly, here's our agenda for the day. We'll have an overview. We'll do a quick recap of how we got to where we are today. We've got 2 respondent teams to the RFP with us. And so their video presentations and on-hand Q&A will be really the bulk of the meeting, and we'll have next steps. But before we get into anything, I do want to turn it over to Commissioner Cox to just provide a welcome and set the table for us today.
Great. Thank you, Luke, and welcome everyone. I'm just thrilled to be joining you all for this meeting on the city's request for proposals for Englewood. So thank you all for tuning in. As you know, this opportunity site consists of vacant land really in the heart of Englewood, owned by the city. And through this community-driven RFP process and in coordination with your Alderman Coleman and the Englewood residents, our goal here is really quite simple, and that is to create a dynamic mixed-use environment at the heart of Englewood that affirms and just reaffirms the kind of rightful role and the critical role that this has as a shopping corridor, a mixed-use and pedestrian-oriented destination. We see this as the front door to the entire community. The site is also amongst that first group of sites that were identified for redevelopment under Mayor Lightfoot's Invest Southwest initiative. And you will be seeing over the course of the 2 days proposals for both the fire station in Englewood Square and the 63rd Street commercial corridor. This was chosen because of its critical location around anchoring investments that have already been made. We're really excited to give residents an opportunity to see these presentations along with my first glimpse. So the city has never really approached development opportunity with such a community-driven focus, where you are asked to meet the developers. You are meeting those developers at the same time that I am meeting them, and you will have an opportunity to weigh in on how they have responded to the community's vision for Englewood. So we are incredibly grateful and excited by your presence this afternoon. And we want to thank you for being such an instrumental part of this process. We look forward to your comments, both during and after the meeting. So thank you again for your participation and your commitment to the future of Englewood. Luke, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thanks, Commissioner. And sorry, everyone, I'm hearing that the slides are showing up very fuzzy. I don't know why that is. Let me try this one more time and see if it wants to cooperate here. Give me one moment. Can someone confirm if this is coming?
That is
oh,
better.
You know what?
Much
It is better?
It's better.
Okay.
It is better, Luke.
Let me even, sorry, not to keep on the technical stuff. Is that just as good or
That's better.
Still okay?
Better still.
Okay. Okay. I think there's a button to click when you want a video and a button to click when you don't. And here we are not with the video. So let's do it this way. Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And thank you again, everybody, for joining us. As Commissioner noted, we've got a pretty straightforward agenda today in terms of what we hope to accomplish. We'll be meeting the respondent teams, 2 of the 4 respondent teams for the Englewood RFP. We'll learn a little bit more about their proposals, and we have ample time to ask questions and provide feedback. Again, the process today is a brief recap by myself on the RFP and how we got to where we are. Then both teams will have a chance to present their proposals. And again, most of that time will actually be open Q&A, which we have on hand Consuela Brown to help us facilitate. We'll meet her momentarily and get into that element of the presentation. And then we'll have next steps to end this. So a brief recap of how we got to where we are in the RFP process. The RFP itself sets forth this transformative vision for the entirety of Englewood Square. So that includes not only the 2 sites that we'll be seeing proposals on today and Thursday, which are the firehouse site called Package B1, B2. Both proposals you'll see today are on that site. But we also, on Thursday, will see an additional proposal for that site and a proposal for Package C, which is the 63rd Street site. So the overall vision that the RFP set forward, which was developed over several visioning sessions in 2020, it was built on the previous plans from the quality of life plans and other neighborhood plans in the area, and really added additional detail to that. So what's in the RFP that the respondents have addressed in their proposals are a renovation of the existing firehouse here to support community and commercial uses, and the potential for additional mixed use development on that site, which could include housing or other commercial uses, and all of that surrounding a public plaza and open space. So that was the vision for Package B1, B2, the firehouse site. And at 63rd Street, we saw the opportunity for a mixed use development with housing along 63rd and eventually additional development, residential or mixed use, moving north from that. So that was kind of the overall vision that was laid out in the RFP, again, built over several months of visioning sessions and drawing pretty heavily from the past plans in the area. So that was step 1, developing and releasing that RFP over several months. That then led us to step 2, which is when responses were developed by potential teams. Those were submitted in November, and we are now in the evaluation stage where we are today with part 1 of the developer presentations. Part 2 will be on Thursday. That's our chance to kind of share that, those proposals with the roundtable and with the community at large, and to better understand feedback as we then select a final team and begin the negotiations on that final development. So again, an overview 4 teams total have submitted proposals. The 2 we'll see today are entitled Englewood Connect. That's proposed by Ignite Technologies and DL3 Realty, and Imagine Englewood, which is proposed by the Imagine Group and Eastlake Management and Development. 2 additional proposals have been received. Another Englewood Connect, popular name, but that by the McLaurin and Farpoint team. All three of those proposals are for the firehouse site. And we did receive 1 proposal, Avia Park from DL3 and Mercy Housing Lakefront. So that and the other Englewood Connect will be presented on January 28th. So two today. So what are we asking folks to keep in mind as you see the presentations from the developer teams today? We want folks' overall impression. We want to know what excites you and what concerns you. We want to know your thoughts on how these proposals address community wealth building. So how do they address the involvement of minority-owned team members, local business development, local hiring, and prior Southside experience from those teams? And how do they address competence and appropriateness? So in the proposals themselves, what are your thoughts on the uses and spaces that are suggested? Does it seem reflective of community priorities from past plans or maybe new priorities that have been established? Do the proposals show high quality design, the architecture, the open space? Are these inspiring designs? And then the just overall experience of the development and design team is something else we want to be looking at. So big question, of course, how will today's feedback be incorporated? The multiple step approach to this. So number 1, we are going, of course, to be actively taking notes and reviewing the comments that come in the chat and the Q&A. We then will synthesize those and report that back out both to the evaluation committee, the city evaluation committee, which is comprised of city staff, and back to the roundtable. We'll also be releasing an online survey that solicits a little bit more detailed opinions on these presentations. And so that, I think, can provide a good way for us to understand what potential consensus is around these proposals. So that survey, information about that survey will be available at the end of this call, and we'll follow up, of course, via email on that. That survey will be open through next Thursday to give time for folks who join us for Thursday's session as well to add their thoughts. And then it's iterative evaluation, right? So the evaluation committee will continue to review the proposals and will incorporate the feedback that we gather both in qualitative format from notes and comments we see today and in quantitative format from what we get back from the survey, which we'll be sharing out. So those 2 inputs will then further shape how the evaluation committee continues its evaluation. And then, to come back with you all and say, these are the findings from the evaluation committee, this is the direction we're headed. Eventually, a team would be selected, and that team would then enter into negotiations with the city on the details of the proposal, which again provides further opportunity for engagement. So with that, I actually do want to introduce our facilitator, Consuela Brown, who will, I think, introduce herself and then introduce some of the approach that we have for today's meeting, which is a little bit different from our roundtables of the past. So Consuela, if you want to jump in. And Consuela, I'm sorry, if you're speaking, I think you're on mute.
Hi, hello everybody. Thanks again, Luke. I am Consuela Brown, and I am the facilitator for this evening or this afternoon. Essentially, my role is to keep us on track and on time. The goal, hopefully, is to get us out of here by 5:30. So in doing so, I'm going to ask for us to do a couple of things. One of which is if we can keep ourselves mute when we're not speaking, so that we can keep some of the background noise down. When you are speaking, we do ask that you just tell us your name, and if you're representing your organization, that organization. So there are a couple of ways that you can chime in. The first is to use the Q&A function. It is far right on your screen. You can also use the chat when necessary, and there's also then an option, I think, of being able to raise your hand. when you're responding verbally, just ask that you respect the stack. So I will be periodically just saying, okay, I have these names of people that are interested in speaking. We are roughly 120 people on this call, and we don't have a lot of time. So to the extent that I can sort of let you all know who's in the queue, I will try to do that. Also, Luke will be responding when there are questions raised in the chat. He will be responding to those. The goal here is to get as much feedback from the community as possible, so we can just sort of be brief and concrete in our observations. That would be wonderful. I know there are a couple of aldermen on the call, and I do want to acknowledge them, and we'll try to make sure that their voices are heard. I do, Alderman, ask if you would be willing to give community residents a little bit of time to sort of speak up. I'd be appreciative of that. And then remember that all questions and ideas are valid, and if you could respond with respect. So the lay of the land is that we're going to be trying to get through 2 presentations. We'll get videos in, and then you will be able to ask questions and or offer observations to, I think first up would be Englewood Connect. So we'll have a video from that team, and then some questions from you. And then we'll move on to the second Ignite Imagine Englewood proposal. So with that, I'm going to ask if we can get the first video up and running. Again, there are just a reminder that Kevin had offered that there are 2 videos we're going to see today, and they are also, there is in the chat a link directly to those videos that you can also access.
Great. Thank you, Consuela. All right, we'll kick off with our first video and then get to Q&A.
Hello, my name is Tracy Powell. I'm president of Ignite Technology and Innovation. We're a not-for-profit that has the mission to create equitable wealth and share prosperity in under-resourced communities. We are happy to show you a video production of our response to the RFP for the Englewood Square Phase 2 B1 and B2 properties.
My name is Leon Walker. I'm the developer of the Englewood Square Shopping Center, anchored by Whole Foods, Starbucks, and Chipotle at the corner of 63rd and Halsted. I'm excited to be here with you today and our partner Ignite Technologies and Tracy Powell about how he's going to connect up with this exciting new development, the B1, B2 parcel with the firehouse to the shopping center, and create one unified vision for the site. That's something unique that only we can offer, working together with Ignite Technologies and Tracy Powell, an integrated, sort of plan for walking and enjoying a mixed-use environment with incubation of businesses, convenient access to shopping and retail, and an outdoor space for showing of movies and concerts and other great activities for families here in the Englewood community.
We've built spaces before. We have a space already that's located in the Pilsen community, and that space has turned into a true catalyst for that community. As an organization, we focus on bringing partners and collaboration into the communities. We've worked with technology companies such as Facebook, Google, Apple, Uptake, a local organization here as well. And these are the kind of partners that we feel are integral to really creating a really viable technology and entrepreneurship space right here in Englewood. Our vision really is, how do we thread together or connect different institutions. We've worked with Englewood High School, where we created a STEM program and workshops for them. And now we just started discussions with how we can work with Kennedy King, Englewood, and really try to create a pipeline for entrepreneurship and technology starting from K through 12 all the way through college. We work already with lots of organizations here in Englewood. We've worked with E.G. Wood. E.G. Wood is an integral partner with us that really helps organizations raise early stage capital. In addition to that, our Momentum and co-working space, which will be housed in this building as well, is opening a Momentum coffee only space right down the street. So we're right here already in the community, working with community members. We've worked with the artists from Englewood as well. And so we're really looking at how we can further do some of the things that we already do. One of the things that I realized as an entrepreneur when I first created Blue Lacuna was that coffee and co-working seemed to be kind of like a very compatible use. And the coffee just is another way to bring people from the community and give them access to some of the programs, workshops, and classes that we do on the co-working side. Englewood Square Phase 1, as you know, is anchored by Whole Foods. Our project called Englewood Connect is how do we connect already the things that are happening here to what we want to do here in the space at the firehouse and just really be a catalyst for developing the overall community. Here we're going to do some very innovative and things with design using containers for entrepreneurs to have that early stage abilities to be able to occupy space, collaborate with other individuals, and be able to really accelerate their ideas. We're really looking at this space as being that kind of catalyst to create that first stage for entrepreneurs to come in a very affordable way and occupy their own spaces.
Our team at Leighton Design is honored to be part of this team and to be able to contribute to what could be a historic transformation of a historic building and how we bring that into the next decade as a critical piece of how we could build smaller spaces but more functional and more high-tech. Tracy has that vision to see more small businesses and to support them.
We're looking at 4 aspects that we really like to hit on: architectural, business, entrepreneurship, and technology. These are the 4 areas that we want to create an innovative space that connects with not only the firehouse, but also with the community. This is an unbelievable structure. This structure is a historic firehouse in the Englewood community. And when you walk into this space here, you're gonna walk into kind of a reception area where you'll see to the back the restaurant area, and to the left you'll see our bar area for coffee. As we go a little bit over to this left side over here, you'll see the entrance to our co-working space, which is on the 2nd floor. And so members and folks in the community that want to have meetings, classes, workshops, that is wired with technology, with podcasting spaces, and have all the kind of things that you want to do if you have a small business or want to accelerate an existing business.
But entrepreneurs work 24/7. You know, they want to work on their business plans in the evening. They want to work on it on the weekends. And so the spaces that are defined in Tracy Powell's vision for Ignite and what Leon has described in this phase 2, well, this is perfect, because that means that this, can have a 24/7 entrepreneurial enclave. So this new second phase of the development allows us to continue that momentum and put something in place that drives entrepreneurship and innovation to not only impact Englewood and Chicago, but to really be a shot heard around the world.
You'll see the other entrance here, which will open up into kind of our small event space. And for us, event space are integral really to how we bring community together. For us, that means having these multi-use kind of spaces that integrate all the things that we know communities need. And on top of that, very much in line with what we do, we create an outdoor space, and it would be a very nice outdoor patio area, nice furniture and planters and things that really kind of spruce up the site overall. Over here, you'll see just kind of the open area that we're looking to really lay nice artwork using some of our Englewood artists. Maybe we'll do movies in the park. But that's just one of the many things that we can do so that it really creates community.
We need to start teaching more entrepreneurship. Technology is what's taking over the world. So if we have a technology center there teaching these young guys and women entrepreneurship, that's a plus for me. And I also want to see something happen with that firehouse. It's sitting there and it's a landmark, and we need to do something with it. So I think that's a great idea.
The mission of Ignite Technology and Innovation is to create equitable wealth and shared prosperity. The kind of successes that we have seen in Blue Lacuna should be mirrored in Englewood, where we've had companies that have come into our space, rented out a very affordable space, had access to printing, had access to mail service, had access to conference rooms and receptionists. All these things, which would cost a lot, would come all in one package for these entrepreneurs. And what this allows them to do is a couple things: hire new people, pay salaries. These are all the kind of things that we know are important to community wealth building. We look forward to working with the community to bring this vision to reality.
Thank you. So we are now open for any questions that you might have of this team as it relates to its plan. And again, you have a couple of options. You can begin to input some questions or observations in the chat. You can raise your hand, or if there is a question or answer, a question that you have, you can also post that. Gloria, I see that I think you're raising your hand.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be on this Zoom call to express my point of view. The video was nice. I enjoyed it, but I still have some concerns to know how is this construction team, would they be hiring some of the people from the community to participate in developing and help build the project? Are they going to hire individuals in the community to also work into the property?
Okay, hi everyone. Hi, Gloria.
Hi.
My name is Tracy Powell, to everybody who doesn't know me. And yes, I can answer that question. But really quick, before I do that, I just want to introduce just a few team members who are on this call, who I may answer some of these questions, but we may go to them to answer some. So I think we have Leon Walker, who's at DL3 Realty, Tanya Kadakia, who's a part of that team, Sarah Jacobson, who's with Layton Designs, with Lamar Johnson Collaborative, Catherine Darnstadt, Nicholas Moore, and they both are with Lamar Johnson. So they're online and they can help answer some of those questions. But the answer, really quick answer, is yes. I mean, I've been a developer in the communities for probably a little bit over 25 years, developing in the south sides of Chicago and all over the south sides, from Woodlawn to Bronzeville to Kenwood, Oakland. And, one of the biggest things that I always say, and which people do always ask for, is how do we empower ourselves and how do we help bring resources back to our community and not let people come into the community and take all the resources out. So we're going to be very aggressive. We have not chosen yet who the contractor would be, but believe me, we're really going to be diligent about the hiring of, African-American, community-based residents in our projects, not only just in the construction, but also in the actual ongoing operations of our facility and space itself. Because the way we see this space is a community-based space. And the community should be a driver of what happens in our spaces. So we're going to work as diligent as we can. A lot of our people, as you see, our team is a minority-driven team, and most of the contractors who we've already started to talk to are committed. They're already doing projects in Englewood and all of this city and complying with not only what's required, but maybe going even over and above. So we will work really hard with the community to make sure we try to achieve some really high results on that.
Can I say one more thing, Ms. Brown? Just one more thing. I just want to say, Whole Food, I am pleased with it. I like the fact that Mr. Walker and the owners at Whole Food listen to the community. That is the big plus. We need people to listen to us as we make our demands and what we would like to see in our community. We don't want anybody coming in our community selling us a pipe dream and giving us less of what we really want. It's all about making sure that our community get what is deserved, as well as making it a model for other communities that's struggling with development in their area. So when you all come into the community and you want our input, and if we put our input in it, we are expecting that you all expecting for you all to deliver what we sent, or if not, then it's going to be a problem.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Tori Barrett has asked, what is the total development cost and what are the sources and uses for the project?
Okay, I'm going to throw this to Tanya. Tanya, can you pipe in and talk about the development costs? And
is that, hi everyone, this is Leon Walker. Nice. Is that something that you guys want us to share, or how much detail do you want us to get in on that kind of topic? But I wanted to say, I want to go back to Ms. Williams' comments earlier. It just warms my heart to hear you say those things, first of all. You know, and it goes so much beyond, which is what you're picking up on, the construction. Everyone focuses on, you know, 8, 9 months, a year of activity, but the real test of how these projects become, you know, anchors and catalysts in the community is that ongoing engagement. And so, for example, at, you know, the shopping center, started out with just a man in a truck. We've helped to grow his business, and now he's providing landscaping services for several banks, other retail centers. Because once you get a shopping center like Starbucks, Chipotle, Whole Foods on your resume, you can grow your business. And so I think that's got to be part and parcel of it. And when we're talking about, you know, the community engagement, our DNA is to look at this as something that improves the overall outcome. This process actually helps us deliver a better product. So I'm just, you know, warms my heart. But back to the one at hand here, Ms. Brown, I don't know what the format is or what we're looking to go into here in terms of the financial presentation.
Yeah,
but,
Leon.
if that's appropriate, I don't know.
Yeah, thanks, Leon. This is Luke. So I think it might be appropriate at this stage to kind of share the overall project costs and an idea of where some of those funds are coming from, what some of the financing that you all have started looking at. We know it's early days, and so going into detailed discussion of sources and uses, I think at this stage is probably too early, but if you want to give folks an understanding at that level, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. So as conceived now, the project is about an $8 to $9 million project. I think we have $8.5 million on what was submitted. And that includes a bevy of stack funds from NOF, as well as corporate investment in the project. One of the key things about Tracy Powell and Ignite Technologies and the way that they engage the corporate stakeholders is that when you saw that signage there from Google and from others, they're actually investing in the project to provide these services with entrepreneurs. And so you actually have that corporate investment, and then you have some grants that are also filling a piece of the capital stack. And then finally, there is sponsor contribution and a loan that is also being taken out.
Thank you. So I just want to go to the Q&A. And so there is some residents who are thanking you for, again, sort of reiterating Ms. Williams' point of thanking you for hearing the community. A question that's come up is, how is the history of the community and Firehouse being preserved, uplifted, and incorporated into this new project?
Yeah, so I think really when we look at Englewood and we look at a rich history, obviously, and I always tell people, I talk about Englewood in a kind of way that most people don't talk about it, is that Englewood to me has it has just about every component already that a community needs to be viable. And, you know, this project is not a project that's gonna, you know, be just the end result of what already everybody's put so much hard work into Englewood, but we're just gonna be a catalyst to help build on what's already been built. I mean, I talk about Englewood because you've got a university, you got Kennedy King, you got hospitals, you've got already Englewood Square 1, and you've got African-American businesses up and down 63rd Street. You got organizations like Rage and Englewood and E.G. Wood and so many different groups that's already doing all of the hard work. So for us, you know, basically what we're doing is just trying to create what we call a connection. We're just trying to fill in the gaps of where we think that we can take our expertise and build on that. And so our expertise, we feel, evolves around entrepreneurship, building spaces that help catalyze entrepreneurship, because we realize that although phase one is a great start, it's not a finish. And the part that we feel that we can help is that we can start to empower community businesses. We want to see small businesses coming out of Englewood where people don't have to leave their neighborhoods to go to work. You know, like literally some people in this world, surprisingly, work in their neighborhoods. And so we want to be able to create an economic catalyst within our neighborhoods where young entrepreneurs can graduate from Kennedy King and come over. We've already started to engage Kennedy King with their program. They're doing some unbelievable stuff that they're going to put out in a few months called Tech Launchpad, and how we can work together. They also have one of the best culinary schools where we can partner with them and bring some of their entrepreneurs into that kitchen area that we're creating, which is going to be an experimental kitchen. Because what we understand is that everybody can't go from school to business right away. So we like to build that kind of pipeline to success. So we want to take people into this space, give them an opportunity to try their businesses, and then ultimately build a brick and mortar right in the community. So that's some of the things that we're trying to accomplish with this project.
Thank you, Mr. Pyle.
And if I may add, I think that was a great sort of description of the intention here with the project. But and I don't know if Catherine wants to ask, I think there was a question about the historic nature of the firehouse. And so this is a historic preservation project. And so it's a restoration of the firehouse with a different use inside of it. But yes, it is a historic reservation and preservation of the historical aspects of the building. And Catherine, if you want to add anything, please do.
Yeah, to add to that, I mean, we have looked through. It's a beautiful building first and foremost, and we may have snuck inside and got a few extra close-up views of it as well. And so part of it with the building and with a building of this age, not only do you have the added constraint of bringing it back online to historic standards with the level of detail, the materials, and the craft that are there. But one of the things that we want to do is figure out a way that we keep it as open, as accessible as possible. So it became a question of what type of programming goes in there. So we wanted to make sure the program, to Tracy's point, is open and accessible to the public. So all of a sudden you don't want to restore a firehouse and then it all of a sudden becomes a private space. And so that's why with Tracy's program at Ignite, you have the coffee house, you have a food and bev component on the first floor, and then you have the open co-working on the second floor, just to make sure that we keep these spaces open and available to the public as much as possible while restoring the exterior skin of the space so you could celebrate the firehouse as it is. One thing to note, even though the building is big and imposing, it is actually very small on the interior. So, I mean, it was one tiny fire truck that fit in there, and the spaces aren't as large. So while we want to think about how to restore that as a landmark and an icon on the site, but know that there were limitations around what actually fits within the space.
Thank you, Aisha. I see your hand. There are three other people before you. Ms. Rando, I think a bunch of questions about just the container space and how accessible. So how are people able to get access to, or what your plans might be for entrepreneurs of different generation, wealth and capital to be able to access that. So maybe if you could just flesh out a little bit more the ideas around containers for entrepreneurs and how you are imagining different people being able to access that depending upon the size and scope of their businesses. And Derek, I see your hand. I'll have you come in after Aisha.
Sure. Now the container space, which we are calling, just for purposes of description, is Englewood Accelerate. And Englewood Accelerate gets us really excited. As Catherine had mentioned, we realized that the firehouse was not a very big space. Literally, I think the firehouse may be somewhere around 9,000 square feet. I have 15,000 square feet in my Lacuna space. So it just kind of goes to show you the limitations that we had to deal with on the second floor, creating kind of like this business incubation space and co-working space. And so what we realized is that creating additional container space, we could then start to create offices and spaces. And one of the things that I learned from running a co-working space and a shared office space for the last 4 years is that people grow. So the answer to it is that some people will come into the co-working space, a very new business, which we want. We want folks that are starting up with ideas and maybe they're just doing open co-working in the firehouse on the second floor. But then sometimes you get people that say, hey, I'm ready for my own space. But we do know that business is a very tough thing, and entrepreneurship in itself is tough. So part of what we wanted to accomplish with just the design of the container space and creating small, affordable office spaces is that we create the affordability aspect to small business, because we don't want small business to run against all of the different expenses that you normally would have to do if you're going into the Loop or you're going into other parts of the city. So this space does provide for different levels of business. It allows for people to transition from open co-working to small, affordable spaces. And then a part of those spaces are a conference room, shared copy fax, internet already provided, electricity already being provided. And so what you have here is become this incubation and acceleration process all in one that we wanted that space to do. From an architectural perspective, we thought that having really a cool state-of-the-art space using containers, realizing that part of what we're trying to do is create cost-effective but high technology and a high level architectural integrity around what we build in our neighborhoods. And so this space that we want to create is going to be one of the spaces you probably would have to go out of this country, because our country hadn't even started to create container spaces at the level that we want to do and offer in the Englewood community. So those are just some of the things that we're looking to do with that space.
Thank you. We've got 15 minutes. So I want to, before I go to Aisha, just there was a question about connecting with residents. The question is, how are you all reaching out to the residents? Anybody?
Yeah, so I'll just jump in. So I think part of like connecting the residents is what we're doing now, obviously, just having these open forums. I think when we initially started this process, we had kind of like an open meeting just to talk to some of our ideas. But we did spend some time trying to connect with as many organizations as we could who represent the community, just to talk about some of the things that they thought they needed, some of the things that were important to the residents in the communities. And, you know, we're totally residential. All of our spaces that we've created, Pilsen, South Loop, we're already building another coffee space in Englewood. We're opening a training roastery in South Shore and possibly be working on our North Lawndale space. It's all community driven. Like for us, when you take community out, it's just a building to us. And so for us, our mission is to, like I said earlier, create equitable wealth and share prosperity in under-resourced communities. So that is what we do. So, yeah.
Perfect. Aisha, you want to jump on in?
Yeah, I just had a quick question around the technology piece. For folks who live in a community, we all know we have probably some of the biggest challenges with bandwidth and Wi-Fi and some of the providers we have around technology. How does the project look to partner, work with, and even overcome some of the technology issues that we face here in Englewood?
Well, one of the things that I know that we're doing as an organization, and I did in Pilsen, which had the same issues as Englewood, believe it or not, and South Loop even had some of the same issues as well, is how do we bring fiber into our community? Really, the integrity of a technology base and platform is going to be based on our ability to connect. And if folks have slow internet to no internet, you're not going to be able to really run businesses or anything. So one of the things that we've already started doing is reaching out to ComEd and AT&T, and just talking about how do we create connectivity, not only for the space, but for the community as well, because we do realize that one of the reasons that our spaces have worked so well is because people have been able to come into our spaces and access internet, computers, all the things that are missing in our neighborhoods and in our homes. You know, we look to do the same thing in Englewood. You know, I would hope that at some point, you know, we would have fiber running through everybody's house in our community. It's not happening yet. It's just a tough thing because it's just a cost issue and, you know, just really just a lack of desire. And of course, we have to ask for it. You know, we have to ask to have connectivity. And so I think the Firehouse and the Englewood Connect project can serve as a catalyst to increase the connection and connectivity to all the residents in the neighborhood. This is what we hope.
And I think I can add a little bit, Tracy, if you don't mind. One of the reasons why we are so supportive of Ignite Technologies, one is that they've done this before in other locations, but also because, you know, creating small business, that's what I believe is really the key to helping to you know, really revitalize communities. That's how the ripple effect happens. But here in this situation, technology, you know, thinking in terms of phase one, we actually created some infrastructure for Comcast and for the other utilities that are already present. And so one of the unique things about us working in tandem like this and really looking how do we there's a physical connection, like that bridge that you're looking at that connects the two parcels together. That's one thing, that's a landscaping and a physical connection. But there's also the opportunity to extend over some of the technology infrastructure that was already put in place as part of phase one. That's one of the reasons we're so excited about this technology use. We have excess capacity essentially in all those duct runs underground.
Thank you. And I want to invite the team. There are some questions in the chat that you may be able to answer. Derek, would you like to chime in?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your presentation. Just probably a three-part question. And so the first part is you mentioned of generating a shared office space. And so I'm hearing, you know, providing containers for small entrepreneurs, maybe the pre-venture phase, but can you flesh out a little bit more how you plan on incubating those particular businesses? You know, that's a buzzword that people are kind of putting out there, but they don't really flesh it out. And so I understand the shared office space aspect, but would love to hear a little bit more about your plan to actually incubate small businesses within Englewood. So that's my part one.
Okay. All right, you want me to, I'll answer part one before you get the other two, because I forget. So anyway, incubation, yeah, it's a buzzword. Acceleration, it's a buzzword. And, you know, really part of what we do at Ignite is create real programs. One of the first things that we did when we established our organization and created the space, because everybody is always at a different level of need, but we always like to go at the most beginning area or the lowest level, because for us, we feel like incubating companies that want to sell $1 million, $2 million, lots of folks are already doing that. We wanted to go where we could reach our people at the beginning. So we created a accelerated program that we still run called Launch 100. And the idea was to launch 100 companies in the Chicago area and incubate them. How do we incubate? One, with workshops and classes. Two, with space, affordable space. Three, money. Like, everybody understands that it's all good when you got an idea, but if you have no revenue behind it, you don't. What did we do when we realized that? We didn't create a venture capital fund. We created our own crowdfunding platform called the Blue Fund. The Blue Fund rewards program is set up to help early stage entrepreneurs raise up to $10,000 on our platform to help them with what? Ideas to build websites, ideas to buy inventory, to buy equipment, all those things. E.G. Wood, which is an organization, was on our platform and raised money to help with their idea as well. And so what we want to do is we create these different things. We also created what we call Ignite Entrepreneurship Initiative, which is an online partnership with the Lonely Entrepreneur to provide information to entrepreneurs on how to build their companies. We realized that with the internet, there was so much information that entrepreneurs didn't really know what information to respect. There's good stuff and there's bad stuff. And so with that program, they can go on, they've got 300 modules of education. They can work through these modules and help start it. And then finally, health insurance. What we did was we partnered with organizations to provide affordable health insurance for all of our members and folks in our accelerated program, because we realized that for entrepreneurs to start to make the transition from employment to self-employment, the biggest hurdle was giving up benefits. And so what we wanted to do is try to hit all of the different areas that we felt would keep people from being successful in business and make sure. So we also partner. We partner with SCORE on mentorship. We partner with Axion to help folks raise debt equity. We partner with the Northwestern Law Center, which is a legal entrepreneurship center that helps entrepreneurs get free legal advice. And they do office hours in our space. Facebook does office hours in our space, and they help entrepreneurs with their platforms for social media. So we try to do all of these kind of things. We can't do everything, but we do as much as we can to give people the tools they need to be successful beyond the physical space.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. So now I'm going to ask everybody to be kind of short-winded. We're down to our last 8 minutes, and we haven't heard from Alderman yet. I want to make sure that if there are questions there. So Derek, are you okay with?
I am definitely okay with passing and giving my time to the Alderman and Alderwoman on the call. So I defer my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any older men or women who have a question for this team? We've got about 8 minutes. And thank you for responding to those questions in the chat. So are there any?
I'll give my time back to Derek. Alderman Lopez.
Thank you, Alderman Lopez. I appreciate you, sir.
Okay, there you go.
So I will take that. So my follow-up question was number one, around jobs, and so that's a really pertinent aspect for Englewood. So as you look at the incubator and you look at the coffee shop, how many jobs are we looking at? Do you anticipate to bring to Englewood? And if you don't have those numbers, when will you have them?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about it. And so we do know that construction jobs are temporary jobs. So I don't even really like to talk about construction jobs. We know they're going to happen. We know we're going to have laborers. We know we're going to have electricians. We know we're going to have that stuff. But when they're gone, we're going to have a space that's going to be an operating co-working space. On average, the co-working space probably employs 3 to 4 people, 3 to 5 people at the most. On the first floor, we'll have a shared kitchen where they would probably have some employees. We'll have a coffee space. They'll have employees. The incubator space would be a space for businesses. So I have a strategy around where I think businesses create jobs. So our function is to accelerate and help create businesses, because when a business is successful, then they hire people, and so we are a catalyst. I'll be remiss if I got on here and say, we're going to create 400, 300 jobs. It's not, this space can be a catalyst for that. It won't create that in itself. And so our idea is, how many businesses can we incubate every year? Because if we can do more, people can hire more, and people are successful, they hire people. So we're really a catalyst in this project. It's not an end to, to all the unemployment issues that we have in our neighborhood. It's just really just the beginning.
So a very small amount,
very small
from just the inception of the project. So you're anticipating and hoping that as they move along the incubation process, that they will be able to eventually hire. But at the beginning, so I heard about 3 to 5 potential jobs off from the government.
Yeah, and I'll give you just a quick example. In the Pilsen space, we have over 200 members. We got over 50 businesses. We got 25 businesses that operate out of space. On average, each business has 3 to 4 employees. So that's the kind of exponential development that we want to see Englewood Connect do. We want Englewood Connect to bring and attract people out of our neighborhoods to start to create and to build. But from a pure like organization perspective, we create the space, we create the opportunity, and we hope that that can have that type of catalytic effect.
Thank you. So in the last 5 minutes, unless Leon, did you want to, or Catherine? No, okay. So there is a question about urban ag that Janelle is asking. Any sense of whether there is conversation about urban ag partners in this development?
Tracy, you want me to take?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay. Not as a material part of this proposal. That may have been part of previous proposals or other ideas, but here, this is about technology and business incubation.
But we do have, so one thing I think we do want to talk about is that big public plaza that we're creating in between the firehouse and the container spaces. So as you know, you have Green Street there, and then we're pretty much vacating it and turning that into a large open plaza. So that becomes kind of like the heart of Englewood in terms of an outdoor, large public space for various types of activities. You saw images of movie night, outdoor movie night, but also just being able to be out and relaxing, just enjoying yourself outdoors in a safe space. And then being around all the energy that's coming from the firehouse or then also from the incubator spaces. We did think about, I think there might be tendrils of what could happen to support the food and bev component of the firehouse. And maybe there is some sort of outdoor urban ag at a small scale for, you know, fresh produce for the food and bev on the first floor of the firehouse, but it's not large scale food and large scale urban agriculture production. So I wouldn't say there's that piece there, but there are components of like, how do we make this whole site an amazing outdoor space, an amazing catalyst for the community, but then also try and also source as much on site for, especially when it comes to the health and wellness that's coming out of that you know, first floor cafe community space in the firehouse.
And just real quick, you know, like really part of what we do. So like, if you just look at the kitchen, like the kitchen can easily partner with urban ag, but also some of the things that we do is we connect vendors and other food providers in our communities to what happens in the restaurant or the downstairs part is super huge. Like even just out of our momentum space, we work with Shy Fresh Kitchen. We work with other African-American people who produce food, and it just becomes a very exponential thing about how things multiply once you start to create that source. So yeah, so I can see that happening as well.
Thank you. So we have 2 more minutes, and I want Englewood Connect to begin to get ready to get queued up. Just a question about the number of businesses again. I think there was a question about just how many businesses you think you can incubate in this space.
Oh yeah, so I mean, to be honest with you, we can incubate quite a number of businesses. You know, when I say that, you know, it can go from anything from 15 to 100. I mean, like it really just depends. But part of when I was speaking to Derek, we don't just like bring companies in, we actually do incubate them. So, you know, we make sure we put people through workshops and classes. You know, my goal would be to incubate anywhere between 40 to 50 companies. If we could get 40 to 50 companies, let's be real. Like, this is not a easy like thing. It's not like we have people knocking down our doors. We're trying to create a catalyst in the community. That means I want to create the interest for people in Englewood to be in business. And once we start to do that, I can see it growing, but we're looking at a process.
Thank you, Tracy. So on that note, I want to thank Catherine, Leon, and Tracy for a really powerful and informative presentation. And I think you all are going to stick around a little bit for questions, perhaps, that have come up in the Q&A. So yeah, so if we could then
absolutely, and we appreciate the interest, and we're happy to stick around if that's, you know, appropriate. And we're just happy to have this interest. It's great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have Englewood Connect, is that right? And again, what happened here is again, we'll have another 8-minute video or so, and then that development team will stick around to hear and questions. And again, if you're on and not muted, please do so.
Imagine.
Hi, we are excited and honored to present to Invest Southwest and their redevelopment efforts in the Englewood community. I'm Tori Barrett of Imagine Group. We have a unique team with a unique approach. All minority-owned, operated, and certified firms that have been operating in the city of Chicago for a very long time. On the development side, we have a joint venture between Imagine Group and Eastlake, both Black-owned, developing on the south and west sides of the city. On the design team, we have Beehive and JGMA. Both of these firms have been known for their design excellence. On the contracting side, joint venture between Berlin Builders and GMA Construction. These firms have a history of hiring within the communities in which they build. And we plan on working with all of the community-based organizations in the Englewood community because we know that they know their neighborhood better than we do. And we want to incorporate them in every aspect of this process. The design program is simple. We want to renovate the historic firehouse that is sitting there. Needs an infusion of great ideas. We plan on developing 4,000 square feet of the retail space, another 8,000 square feet of commercial space, because we know that Englewood needs jobs and we have businesses that we want to bring to this particular community. We also want to create a 50-unit affordable housing to make sure that we protect those residents that live in Englewood and have a place to live. And then we also have a partnership to bring outdoor festivals to the neighborhood because we know during the summertime, there has to be activity that keeps people engaged.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fred Spencer. I'm the co-founder of Imagine Development Group, the minority development partner in Imagine Englewood. I want to share briefly with you today our economic impact and development plan. Our goal from the start was having an all MBE, WBE, and minority development team. Our focus is to create numerous employment opportunities for Englewood residents. The development will consist of several distinct construction projects, site infrastructure and build out of the plaza, rehabilitation of the firehouse, the construction of 50 affordable housing units, as well as the construction of the community center for a future phase. We foresee this leading to over 300 construction jobs for the first 3 phases. Our plan to exceed the city's MBE, WBE requirement for each phase. However, we also commit to assuring that our general contractor and its subcontractors hire first within Englewood for skilled and unskilled labor. In regards to permanent jobs, our team estimates that we will create 15 to 20 permanent opportunities from the commercial retail space to office space, as well as the facilities and property management. As we were diligent in selecting our minority tenants, our anchor tenant, IO Foods, recently was published in Forbes magazine as one of the hot new food brands. IO plans to make Englewood its corporate headquarters. Through this development, IO has recently secured $1 million in capital and has committed to 2 to 4 new jobs in the first post-construction year, as well as numerous job opportunities in the subsequent years. The remaining permanent jobs will come from our other committed office and retail tenants, 360 MBS, Sports Shed, Grow, Greater Englewood, as well as Wakana. In summary, the project will be close to 320 temporary and permanent job opportunities. In addition, our structure also sets up economic business growth for minority and small businesses. Imagine Englewood can be the continued growth and change for Englewood.
Hi, my name is Tyler Holland with the Imagine Englewood development team, and I'm excited today to present our strategy for financing for our proposal. 3 major points that we focused on in our financing structure were to provide all the elements desired by the community and as well as the RFP requirements, minimize the amount of government assistance necessary to execute the project efficiently, and lastly, to provide affordable community space for minority-owned businesses within the neighborhood. So how did we accomplish this, and what makes our plan unique? In our multi-phase financing approach, we are maximizing the use of tax increment financing while the city still owns the land to complete the site prep, environmental, and infrastructure necessary to deliver a pad-ready development site. In the second phase, after we've purchased the land from the city, we have two separate financing structures, one which includes the 50 units of residential and the rehabilitation of the firehouse, which will be financed by a 221D4 first mortgage and a single tax credit equity investor that will invest in the low-income housing tax credits, donation tax credits, and historic tax credits. That project will be owned and controlled by the Imagine Englewood joint venture. The second phase of our financing structure for the 4,000 square feet of commercial is that Eastlake is uniquely positioned, given our ownership in the adjacent WIC building, to self-finance and reorient that building to create the necessary square footage at a significantly less expensive cost compared to new construction. That project will be owned by Eastlake. We feel that we have a unique financing plan that maximizes the benefits of the community and the city, and we're excited to continue that dialogue as we make progress in our discussions with you, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
On behalf of Beehive and JGMA, we're thrilled to present our concept for Imagine Englewood. The design is based on the ideals of design excellence and elevating the architecture of Englewood. As you'll see in this design, everything that we're doing is inspired by the existing firehouse. In other words, using the context of the area to inspire everything we do, from the multi-family building to the transformation of the WIC, the Grand Plaza, the community center, and the townhomes. All of those designs take their cues from the firehouse. Everything as literal as the color palette or even the building forms. The firehouse, its history in this area, is the foundation for all the ideas that we're presenting. And as you can see, as they come together, they create this wonderful campus of buildings that inspires everyone to come together. It also elevates living and brings dignity to architecture of housing, to the architecture of commercial spaces like this WIC building. It's one that unifies a community, but also encourages an entrepreneurial spirit and brings jobs to the area. But the ideas don't just stop with those buildings, they continue, as you can see, with the community building, as well as the townhomes. Those two buildings frame a children's playground. In other words, it's a multi-generational building that brings families and people of all generations together. Again, inspired by an architecture of the past, but one that looks forward and really elevates the architecture of the area.
Thank you, Imagine Englewood. I think there was a question about, are you the same as the community-based organization? And I don't know if somebody wants to, Tori, are you going to be my go-to person here?
Tyler's actually a go-to person for this, but I'm not sure what they mean by that question.
So I'm guessing it's the answer is that there is a separate entity in Englewood called Imagine Englewood If. And I am guessing that you are not connected to that nonprofit organization.
That is correct. We are not.
Yeah. Okay, so Ms. Williams, you want to kick us off with your question first?
Yes. Well, I have a lot to say, and this is not personal towards Eastlake, but I am not pleased with the development team because you all do not do great work. And the reason why I feel that is because I work for you guys. And I see how you all mistreated your tenants as well as how you the upkeep of your property. I am not pleased. I mean, I understand that you want to get a contract in and bid and try to do the development. And I am very, very passionate about my community. And I don't like people coming in my community selling me pipe dreams and giving us all these things that they're going to do. And then in the end, they don't do anything. So I am not pleased with Eastlake or Imagine Englewood if even the design that you just showed us with the playground is, to me, it would end up turning up to be a project. That's how I feel, because you all do not maintain your property. And I do not need anyone coming in my community, excuse me, you all, nigger rigging anything into the nigger rigging stuff and not giving the proper development like it should be done. That's how I feel. It's nothing personal against you all trying to get the contract. I understand that. But I got an issue when people coming in my community selling me false dreams and don't follow through. You get the contract and then you put cheap stuff into the building, and then it begin to fall down. Once the people get into the property, then they have major issues with mold, with electrician, with pipes, stuff busting. That's how I feel, because I have worked with you guys and I have seen some of y'all work, and I am not pleased. Maybe you all might do something right with this development, but right now I can't go with it. And I don't even like the design you just put up. That's just me, because it doesn't fit the community that I see. And I'm assuming that everybody on this call don't see the same vision that I see. I want my community to be a model for other undeveloped communities. And right now, that's just me. And it's nothing personal against you. It's just I'm very passionate about anybody coming in my community selling me false dreams that I know they're not going to follow through with what their plan is. That's just me. And nothing personal against you all, none at all. That's just how I feel.
Thank you,
Gloria. Thank you. For that. I'm sorry to hear, that you had, a bad experience. I think that, it is our intention to follow through, with the commitments that we are making to the community of Englewood. We have a long history of trying to revitalize communities within the south and west sides of Chicago. So I'm not necessarily familiar with your specific experience, but, I'm sorry to hear that, and happy to have, dialogue, offline to, see what the issues are and if we can't work things out. But I'm really sorry to hear that. So, and I don't know if Eileen has anything to add, but I appreciate your comment.
Is Eileen on the phone call?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Arlene. How are you?
I'm good, Gloria. How are you, honey?
I'm doing well.
I'm glad.
And
Okay. Sorry, Tyler. Were you going to say something?
No, this is Tori. I was just going to add, when she talked about the design, we do have the architect on the line as well. And I think his goal, and I don't want to take his words, but was to look at the historic use of the firehouse that was already there. But we know that this is a process, and we know that we can't develop anything in the Englewood community without the Englewood's voice. And so, this is the first step in that process.
Thank you. And so could we clarify, Maria wants to know about costs, and then Joyce is interested in hearing about your clarification on which what ventures and businesses do you already own in Englewood?
Okay, so I can take the first part of that question. This is Tyler. So the rough costs for the project are about $23 million, just underneath, that project cost. And as Tori mentioned, this really is an iterative process, that's based on, what we put together so far with the plan that does have some flexibility as far as design in materials and what have you. So, again, this is really just a starting place to start the conversation with the community on what the priorities are. But that's the cost that we presented within our RFP. And with that, I will hand it over to Tori to talk a little bit about, the elements of our plan, but in particular, the community outreach that we've done.
Yeah, and I think the other question was about businesses that are located in the Englewood community. Currently, we do not have any businesses that are located in the Englewood community. The business, I'll speak to my businesses, and then my business partner, Fred Spencer, can speak to his. But the two businesses that we do have letters of interest from, one is the Park Supper Club. The owners of the Park Supper Club also own the M Lounge and Persona in the South Loop. And both of those organizations have expressed interest in opening up businesses in the Englewood community, as well as the Sports Shed. The Sports Shed is currently occupying space in my development in Washington Park. And they are a nonprofit sporting goods store that takes donations from major sporting corporations and then resell them at a huge discount to nonprofits and local businesses in the area. Fred, you want to talk about IO?
Yeah, sure. So I just want to start off that. So we do have LOIs from several small businesses. So that was our focus, and that's kind of our approach. So 360 MBS, Tori mentioned Sports Shed, Wakana, and then IO. And then I'll just talk briefly about IO really quickly. So IO, so actually my mother is from Englewood. So, and my wife's family is from Liberia. And so we started this company, IO Foods, together. It's a West African food brand, and we're currently in over 200 grocery stores, and we'll be in all of Mariano's starting next month. So a little bit of a self-plug there, so quick laughter. But anyway, IO is planning to hopefully be the anchor for the fire home. We plan to bring our headquarters there. Today, IO is, we're working out of our home. That's kind of our home office. But we were just received our seed money from Don Thompson, who's the former CEO of McDonald's. And so we were mentioned in Black Enterprise, as well as Forbes, and in Essence as well. So as one of the hot new food brands in the U.S. And so that's one of the things that we plan to bring to this development is an anchor tenant like IO. So IO is also part of incubation. We started at the hatchery on the west side and got our first loan from Axion, which was mentioned by a previous development partner. And so we're on a very growth plan. We plan to bring at least 4 jobs starting from the start of signed lease, and then hopefully future jobs in the future as we grow. So our commitment has been between 15 to 20 jobs permanently overall for the project, with IO being kind of the lead with 4 right away.
Thank you, Fred. So there is a response to the a question around the architecture. And so there was mention of the architecture being inspired of the past. And can you elaborate more? Was there any community input in the design?
That's a great question. And I will pass it over to Juan, who should be here on the line as well, to talk about how we pulled that together. So thank you, Juan.
Thank you, Tyler. Pleasure to be with all of you. I'm Juan Moreno with JGMA. So far we have not had the opportunity to have community engagement meetings. That's a big part of the way we work. And for any of you that have had the opportunity to see my work, everything that we do is focused on community, and gathering community input is a big part of any inspiration. So without a doubt, that's going to play a role in the way that we design the building. Currently, what we've started with is this idea of a landmark really being the genesis for the concept. And that as you look at the buildings that surround it, even the reinvention of the WIC building, where the WIC building is now, essentially that's the alley. And we're changing that entire facade of the WIC building so that all of those entrepreneurial businesses are going to be looking right at the firehouse. So it's this great way of creating this plaza that's framed by 3 buildings: the firehouse to the west, the housing to the south, and the WIC to the east. But it's really taking that beautiful, beautiful building and its history and making sure that elements of that find its way into every part of this campus development.
Thank you, Juan.
My pleasure.
So are there any other questions? We don't, can you, it looks like, well, what is the square footage of the public plazas and parks, and what percentage of the development surface is public?
So Juan, let me see, I have those square footages. So the community garden is 3,000 square feet. Juan, do you have the square footage of the playground?
So the playground is about 1,500 square feet, a little under 2,000. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for this team?
Yes, this is Derek Warren. So just wanted to know again, just a little bit more clarity on, and thank you for all the comments and questions prior to me, but wanted to know just the connection or communication or research that you all have done with community stakeholders prior to tonight's presentation and as you develop your RFP. As you all know, Englewood is a unique community. And so I just want to know, as far as how much have you all actually engaged with community stakeholders in developing your particular RFP?
Sure.
And who actually particularly did you actually engage with?
No, that's a great question, Derek. And, I think, first and foremost, you can't, move forward with the development or create a positive development without engaging the community. But I think Tori, has been point on making many of those discussions happen. So I'm going to pass it over to Tori to talk a little bit about our outreach that we've done.
Sure, thanks, Tyler. And if Derek, thanks for the question. It's an important question and one that needs to be discussed. And I am a community guy. I mean, I started my organization, Clio, in the Washington Park community. I think a lot of people may or may not know, but I lost a sister to domestic violence about 13 years ago. And I started that organization initially as a domestic violence organization, but now the mission is to eradicate violence by bringing opportunity to those in need. And so, we hire from the community about 300 young people every year. And when we first looked at the Englewood community and what organizations in Englewood we should be looking to partner with, I reached out to Alderman Stephanie Coleman. Because I know that this particular project was in her ward. And the first name that Stephanie gave me, Derek, was actually yours. And so she said, hey, you should reach out to Derek Warren. And he is the guy in the Englewood community who will tell you about the other individuals you should be reaching out to. And so through, I believe your assistant's name is Brandy, but you and I had, I think, 2 calls, if I'm not mistaken. We went back and forth on some other information that I provided to you. And so you were the first point of contact that I wanted to reach out to. The second was Grow Greater Englewood. We've reached out to them as well. And a young lady, Asia Butler, I believe she's on the line as well. And, we knew that we could not be competitive with this process and come into a community and not have community allies in order to be competitive. And we know that in order to put together a solid plan, we've participated in the quality of life plan for the Washington Park area. We know that you all have one in Englewood. We want to make sure all of that helped inform our process all the way. And so I think even though we did have some initial outreach, we can do a better job as a team with that. But we did reach out to those individuals that were recommended by the alderman.
Thank you. Cecile has been trying to jump in here. DeMello, Cecile, if you're able to jump in.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Sure. I have a question, and I'm doing it towards this second part because it is a general question about all of the RFPs that we've listened to today, and I wanted some insight. There's a lot of conversation, and we're having these preliminary question and answers around local hiring commitment, the community engagement commitment ongoing. How will the Department of Planning support these continued conversations and hold some of the commitments that are being made here true to whoever receives the RFP? And I know this is Tori and the people from Imagine Englewood may not be able to answer this per se, but I'm asking this because in this part of the relationship building there's a lot of commitments that are being said, but I'm really interested to see how do we hold any of the developments feet to the fire moving forward with the community and DPD, hopefully working hand in hand to ensure that these things that are being promised are kind of followed through. And so, Consuela, this may be something that has to be answered a little bit later, but I did wanted to put that out there because there was a little gap in questions. and this is for all of the projects we'll be listening to as panelists.
Sorry, I can jump in there. Cecile, thanks so much for that question. Again, Luke Mish here with DPD. Great question. That is definitely the role that DPD will have in this project moving forward. So again, you can kind of think of this portion of the RFP process as relatively the midway point, right? We've established the RFP, we've released it, we've now seen proposals come in. As we select a winning team, that's still the initial phase of what becomes the ultimate project, right? So we come back through our own roundtables, through one-off visioning sessions, separate from the roundtables perhaps, where DPD is working with the winning team to continue to do engagement. And so we would definitely be requiring that moving forward, and would have multiple opportunities to do that before any actual redevelopment agreement is reached with the winning team.
And if time permits, may I add to that?
Yes, please, Tori.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would just say, that was a very great question. And without even having DPD hold our feet to the fire, I would say, look at our experience. In our past development experience, we've exceeded MBE, WBE goals that have been set by the city. You can look at all of the businesses that we've created. They've all come from community people who wanted to be entrepreneurs, who started their firms, and now they're working in the buildings that we develop. And I know we have the contract on the line as well, GMA Construction. Cornelius has done an excellent job of hiring within the community and creating training programs to help people in the community start their own businesses. So Cornelius, I don't know if you want to add anything to that as well.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Gary, before you do that though, I just want to make sure, did you finish up that, Tori? Was there did you want to?
Yeah, I finished my point. There's another part of the team and our contractor who's done a really good job at making sure that we meet and exceed our MBE, WBE numbers. And so I kind of passed it to him to elaborate.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll hear from him, and then Ms. Williams, I hear you, and then Aisha has a question about the shifting of priorities given that we're in a pandemic. So that's I'm not sure who you were kicking that off to, Tori.
Cornelius.
Cornelius.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, Tori. I'm Cornelius Griggs. I'm the president and CEO of GMA Construction Group. GMA is about $100 million firm located on in the Bridgeport area of Chicago. Our office is right on 35th and Morgan. I'm a resident of Chicago, grew up in the Cabrini Green and the Austin communities. Have family who lived on 69th and Green, and my daughter went to elementary school right there on the corner of 69th and Green for 4 or 5 years, and I think it's a church now, but so I know the area very well. We work with a couple organizations that are there. We did the Englewood Kitchens right on 67th Street, and we're working on a project with Volunteers of America that we've been working on for the last couple of years. So we're very familiar with the community. As it relates to participation and community hiring, is what I built my company on. So you can check our website. You can check my references in the neighborhoods. 86% of the people that work for my organization look like me. That's extremely important. Started the company 5 years ago, and we've grown to $100 million in 5 states. And 86% of those folks are people who come from the communities that I come from. So that's extremely important to me. And training individuals, especially returning citizens. I got 8 brothers and 1 sister. 6 of my brothers are ex-offenders. So trying to make sure I have programs for them and opportunities in the trades have been important for me. So I'm committed to it as a company. My executive team that works for me is committed to it. And it's something that we do throughout the city of Chicago. We have a training program out at Altgeld Gardens right now that's training about 75 residents. And 26 of those individuals currently work for me right now as carpenters and laborers. So it's extremely important that we create construction opportunity within the Englewood community for folks within Englewood.
Thank you, Cornelius. So Ms. Williams, Aisha had a question, and then we'll go to Mr. Bradford. So Ms. Williams, do you want to?
Yes. This question is towards Tori. I know you're the outreach person, and I know that you went to the alderman and she gave you 3 names, and I love all 3 of those individuals. But I'm gonna say this: it's more than just those 3 organizations that make up Englewood and West Englewood, and you need to get out and outreach, because if you don't get out and outreach and listen to the community, you are going to have some serious problems, because everybody can only speak on what area of the community that they live in. So in order for you to get input, I advise you to get out here and hit the ground running and find out key individuals, key organizations that can give you some good insight. That's my question, because if you don't, I promise to God, you're going to have a headache or you're going to have a problem within the community.
I appreciate it, Ms. Williams. And you know, as a developer and a community person myself, that's what we do. We did it in every community that we've developed in. We found those local stakeholders, make sure that they were a part of the process. We've even created security firms from local residents in the areas that we developed to make sure that that the development is secure. So I hear you loud and clear. And
you didn't find out every stakeholder, because there's some heavy hitters in the community that you really need to listen to.
Oh, absolutely. I'm talking about past developments, but we well noted and well taken.
Thank you. Aisha wanted to sort of just had a pulse check on how this has changed. The development that's proposed has been impacted or will be impacted by the pandemic. And then Mr. Bradford, we'll hear from you next.
So I think that's a great question. I think that, you know, the pandemic, but also, you know, trying to create affordable, not only housing, but affordable space for community businesses was one of the themes that we really focused on within our proposal. You know, so while the pandemic is obviously a near-term item, you know, by the time this development actually gets, you know, developed and built, you know, within the 2-year period that we propose within our RFP, you know, hopefully we've got vaccines and things like that that are available to keep folks healthy and whatnot. But I think, you know, first and foremost, the way that we structured, you know, our financing around this proposal was to really be able to provide, you know, a lower cost to businesses, but also providing high quality space similar to the other, you know, existing tenants that are currently in Englewood Square. So that was really our goal, as well as keeping, you know, rents affordable within our residential portion of the development. And I don't know if Tori or Fred have anything to add, but, you know, that was something that was important to us.
I can go briefly, Tyler. Thank you for that. So just from an IO perspective, actually, you know, moving forward, if we were to win this proposal and us being the anchor tenant, the pandemic has been great for grocery retail, and so this is actually, the pandemic has helped us quite a bit. So I would just say we are leaning and moving forward, and know that we're kind of, you know, happy. Well, I wouldn't say this. I won't say happy that the pandemic has been great for food businesses. So
yeah. And Fred, can you talk a little bit about the programming as well as the culinary incubation part of our proposal? There's a couple of questions that are in the chat that we should address as well.
Sure. You know, the firehouse is going to be split to, I think, top level is going to be for the companies that we have LOIs with, which would be office space for those. The ground floor will be some retail, and then there's going to be a commercial kitchen that IO will have part of, and then we'll have another part, a couple of square feet for incubation. So what the culinary kitchen would do for IO would be an R&D space. So we plan to definitely hire there as well. As we continue to grow recipes, we need R&D. And then the other part of the kitchen will be kind of like what I mentioned about the hatchery before. It will be kind of a culinary space for entrepreneurs to come in and use the space, as well as current restaurants, or to use as a test kitchen or as a remote kitchen to kind of service Englewood through, you know, the delivery methods that currently exist today, like Uber Eats or Grubhub and things of that nature.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. And then I would invite the team, the Imagine Englewood team, if you could take a stab at answering some of the other questions in the chat. Mr. Bradford, yes, please.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am speaking on as a representative from Alderman Coleman's office in her absence too. And this more goes back to what Cecile asked about and a little bit what Gloria asked about. Of course, there are several hundred stakeholders in the Englewood community that these the presenters could have reached out to, and so the alderman did give out a few names if someone did ask her. But the point is to be sure that to just know that alderman will be holding whoever is selected accountable as far as the community development piece, community input, community partnership. Because when she first heard about this is one thing that she and Luke to this, the alderman has been very vocal about how she wants this to play out, and she does not want this to just be something someone throws to Englewood, or they give their ideas without any input from the community. And there are stakeholders that have been engaged with the alderman's office and with DPD on how this should move forward. So even though she's not here in her absence, myself as well as TJ from our office here, we're taking these notes to make sure we can take these back to the alderman, and she continues to do the job she was elected to do and make sure that we hold these people accountable for the promises that they are making during these presentations.
100%, Brandon, and we wouldn't want it any other way.
Thank you. So we are down to about the last 10 minutes. There are a few questions in the chat, and I don't know, there is one about there being a number of proposed pieces, including in this housing, gardens, commercial space. I am going to ask that somebody just respond to that in the chat, and or to be reminded at the end of this conversation, there will be a hash of next or a lifting up of next steps, some of which will be where and how you can find these presentations on the DBD website. And so for there may be some answers. The other question is how, sort of following up on this question around community engagement, is how are you planning on engaging the community with the facility once the project is completed?
I think that's a great question. And Tori, why don't you take that as well as Fred in regards to the community engagement after we've already, completed the construction of the project.
Yep, thanks, Tyler. I'll take the first part. So it wouldn't happen after the completion of the project. It would happen immediately once selected. Again, we have a rigorous community engagement process that we follow for all of our developments, as well as you talked a little bit about the pandemic. I mean, my organization in the Washington Park area, we go after grants to provide temporary and permanent jobs for community engagement process. We're currently doing the COVID contact tracing on behalf of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. We also, through another nonprofit that I started, won the R3 reinvestment from the state of Illinois that takes 25% of cannabis and goes toward reinvesting that into the community. So these are all the things that come with the process of community engagement for us. And so we wouldn't wait until after the completion of the development to start that process. That process starts day one when selected.
Thank you. Any of the Alder people who haven't had a chance to, so we've heard from Mr. Bradford. Are there any other Alder people that want to raise a question here in the last 10 minutes? Nope.
No, okay. I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Sawyer. Okay. All right. Yeah. So yes.
Do you mind if I just want to, my name's Eileen, I work at Eastlake. I just wanted to piggyback onto what Tori was saying about the community involvement. The way that we've laid out the firehouse in particular, as Fred said, there's going to be a test kitchen, a R&D kitchen. Wakana will use some, AO will use some, and we've got about 1,000 square feet that we expect to be used by businesses or individuals in Englewood. So there's space already mapped out there. There's office space on the second floor of the firehouse that we haven't programmed yet, and we're imagining that will be a co-working space so that Grow Greater Englewood will have space up there, but we're hoping that other nonprofits or small businesses in Englewood might elect to go onto the second floor. So we have programmed into our space room for the community to be housed and to participate in the activity at the center. And in addition, as Tori mentioned in the video, we have a member of our team, Jonathan Swain, and his group is a professional Black-owned festival company. So what we want to do in the very beginning, the way that we've laid out the plaza, is that there'll be an area adjacent to the WIC where the 360 MBS, which is a fitness shop, will be located, that we can have outdoor fitness. She's agreed to do yoga or different activities out on the plaza with people from the community. We have, as Juan mentioned, a community garden space and then the playground space. So that's open to the community, and we expect to be programming it in collaboration with Grow Greater Englewood and planning out those spaces with the larger community. And then we have the plaza itself, where we'd hope to have farmers markets or movie nights or activities for kids, or Jonathan's done festivals in Bronzeville and in Hyde Park. So we have organized the entire development to have not only physical space for residents and businesses from Englewood to be located, but also to have the programming of the plaza be almost entirely driven by the residents of the neighborhood. And we would expect to have a committee and an advisory group of neighborhood folks and the aldermen and different stakeholders that would participate in activating that plaza on a regular basis.
Thank you, Eileen. And so there is I'm not sure where Anton is going with the question about farm businesses. Anton, did you want to?
No, I was just clarifying that, that our network of farmers would have office space is what the thinking was for that particular space, not necessarily Grow Greater Englewood, but some of the network of farmers that we're working with to grow their businesses, and that interconnection with IO. And that food business is a huge opportunity for a lot of the farm businesses that are seeking even more space in Englewood.
Thank you, Anton. So Ms. Rando, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, hi, this is Juan. I was wondering if I could just add on to the question about, what happens afterwards. And there are the business responses that the team's been sharing with you, but I also think there's a discussion about architecture to be had. And what I mean by that is that this opportunity to engage with community is something that's very important to us. And during those opportunities to get to know the organizations, undoubtedly we get to meet the lifeblood of the community, the youth. And architecture is a wonderful field. It's not a field that's meant just for downtown. It's meant for our neighborhoods too. And a big part of what we try to do is show this youth that this field, this gift that we have, has to be shared with you, because if you have an interest in it, all of us, and you can check our track record, we open our doors to this youth to get to know the beauty that is architecture. But then that means the beauty that is engineering, the beauty that is construction, the beauty that is development. This is about paying it forward. This isn't something just for this presentation tonight. I think, again, if you look at our DNA, what we're made of, this is why we started our own businesses. I can speak to myself in the first person. It's what inspired me to start my business. And it's incumbent about all of us to think about paying it forward. So I'm glad you guys asked the question about what happens after.
Consuela, can I also respond to, I think somebody in the chat is asking about Joyce is asking about the culinary incubator, and just concerned that, well, two things, that she's concerned about how much space. We have 4,000 square feet of kitchen. Part of it's for AO, like I said, part of it is for Wakana, who's going to be doing their R&D for CBD infused foods. And then we've got 1,000 square feet. There's additional room. We want to have a little bit of retail so that the people that use the space can also sell their wares. And we've talked about Ghost Kitchen, where different restaurants can collaborate. So we really feel like that we're at the beginning of a conversation about how to best use the kitchen in order to serve the greater community. And that would be part of the excitement of talking to the neighbors to figure out who else might be a good fit for there. Joyce also expressed a concern about people feeling like it's intrusive. But the good thing about us being able to put the retail into the WIC building is that we have a very big plaza, and the way that Juan has configured the housing is so that people will have some space that they will feel is their own private green space, their own home space. But when they move in there, they'll know that they're going to be part of a vibrant community. And I guess it wouldn't be different than if you moved on to Halstead or someplace where there's a lot of business, there's a lot of traffic. And so the people that are going to come here are going to want to be people that are part of this kind of heartbeat active community. So we think that it will be attractive. There might be people that would prefer it to be more quiet, and that won't be the tenant that'll come here. But we think that we're going to create a lot of energy on that plaza that's going to have business energy and family energy. That's going to make it an exciting addition to what's already on that corner.
All right, so I've been told to earn my keep here. We're going to need to move on, but we have two last questions from Aisha Butler. So Aisha, if you can go ahead and answer those very quickly, we will move on, and I promise to get us all out by 5:30.
Just some observations that I noticed. Most of the businesses that were mentioned and or folks coming to the space were from outside of the community. I just want to know, how is this creating community wealth within the Englewood community? That's my first question. And then the second question is, why hasn't it been any type of renovations, updates, playgrounds to the current WIC building that's been an eyesore for the last 15 years?
Is that Tyler or?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll pass it to Colleen.
So the first part of your question, the way that we structured bringing in the LOIs was in order to demonstrate to the community and to the city and the aldermen that we had legitimate minority-owned businesses that were interested in occupying the space. But we have enough flexibility in the design right now that we could bring in additional businesses. We could bring in some additional businesses in the 4,000 square feet on the WIC. We can bring in additional businesses in the firehouse. So we think that there'll be a mix of existing businesses that'll move into Englewood and hire from Englewood and provide services to Englewood, and Englewood-based businesses. And I would say about the WIC, we've made some improvements over time, but it's time for us to, the building needs a facelift, and that's why we're excited about this being an opportunity to do the facelift in the context of the larger development. And I think that over time, folks like Leon and Craig and different people have been working on plans. So when we talked to the city about it, was always at the idea that as plans came to fruition, we would work with that plan. And unfortunately, those didn't materialize. So this is an opportunity for us to do development in concert with what the city and the aldermen and the community want to see here.
And can I add something to that, Eileen, too, to Ms. Butler's point? So just so you're aware that my family actually is from Englewood. So my grandmother's at 72nd and Green. And so I'm actually in Englewood quite often. My grandmother's passed. My aunt lives there now and controls that property, which is where my mom grew up in. So I'm always, as I grew up a little bit in Englewood, but not for a long time. But my mom grew up her whole life in Englewood. So as an extension, IO is kind of, an extension of the Englewood community. So I'm actually in Englewood quite often.
Okay, so I just want to be, I got to move us on. Is you okay? Is there something else that you?
No, it just didn't point to the pathways for community wealth for the residents here. And I didn't hear it, but that's okay.
All right, so, and I understand that some of you have been trying to get a question in or have your hand raised. And we, sadly, we are not seeing you saying that. And it may be that there's just a refresh of Zoom, either the update of the most recent version of it. With that said, I am going to, because I want to make sure we keep us on time, I want to thank Tyler, Juan, Tori, Fred, Eileen, and was it Corliss, I think?
Cornelius.
Cornelius.
Yep.
Cornelius, for your time and the presentation. Again, this stuff will be uploaded and should be on the Department of Planning Development website by Thursday. And again, I apologize, we'll have this fixed. Did not intend to disable the feature of being able to raise your hand, but hopefully we've been able to get to the questions. I'm going to kick this back to Luke for next steps.
Great, thank you, Consuelo, and thanks again to both teams that have presented. Thank you to everybody who's asked questions, both verbally and in the chat. That's exactly what we wanted to make sure we got through on that call, was a time for folks to ask questions directly to those teams. So appreciate that. Again, if you have questions that went unanswered, we recognize the issue with the hand raise. Please add those to the Q&A now, and we will we'll be reviewing those written questions and compiling responses after the call as well. So please add those there. Just in terms of next steps, as noted, we'll be synthesizing the comments from today and the online survey responses. Those I'll be putting the survey link in the chat in a moment. In fact, let me bring that up. The summary results of the evaluation committee findings will be shared at the February 18th roundtable for further discussion. And then once all input has been reviewed and we've gotten responses from the surveys, we've done our own due diligence, a winning team will be selected. We're targeting the end of February, and so that will be announced then, but we will of course see you all before that. And then again, continued negotiation and proposal refinement happens after that selection period. So additional opportunities for engagement and for us and the winning team to come back and really tweak the design, tweak the program, tweak things with that engagement. So as noted, we are launching an online survey. I will be putting the link to that in the chat. You'll also see an email go out after this meeting, probably sometime tomorrow, that has links not only to the recordings of today's presentations, but also to this survey. So we want you all to provide feedback. It's an online survey. We are asking for a little bit of info from yourself so that we know where the comments are coming from. And then we want thoughts. We want to know, again, what excites you, what concerns you for each of these proposals. How does each proposal address community wealth building, competency and appropriateness, and just any additional thoughts that you may have. So again, we'll see you on Thursday evening from 4 to 6 p.m. You can use the same link that you used to join this meeting. You can use that same link. So if you registered via the public registration link, the Zoom link you were sent for that will work for Thursday. If you're a panelist, the unique link that you were sent directly from Zoom will also work. So just use the same link and we'll see the final two proposals on Thursday. And then on February 18th, we will have our February roundtable, regular roundtable session where we will be prepared to share a summary of the evaluation findings from the evaluation committee. And so with that, that's really all we had. So thank you, everybody. And thanks again to Consuela for facilitating this and getting us through on time and in one piece. And thank you all for presenting, for providing answers. And thank you most to the roundtable members and the aldermen who asked such great questions. More to come, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.